right, the next standard that we're going to look at is about inferring patterns of heredity using information from Punnett squares and pedigree analysis. Now, Sohn is very interested in looking at the back of this screen. So Sohn, say hello.
Hi.
Okay, goodbye now. All right, so some important vocabulary for this section is going to be genetic crosses, homozygous dominant and homozygous recessive, heterozygous, pedigree, genotype, phenotype, and alleles. And if you remember to look back through your notebook, if you look on pages 62 and a few beyond that, you're going to find all the important stuff that you're going to need to know all about predicting patterns of heredity. Now, the first thing is when we talk about a genetic cross, what we're really talking about is one parent and another parent coming together to produce offspring. And we can predict the genotype and the phenotype of the offspring using a Punnett square. Genotype tells you what genes there are, which actual alleles are there. Phenotype is going to tell you what that thing looks like. Okay? So I have two examples here. We have a tall example. Come right over here. And then we have a not so tall example. Come over here. Okay? So whenever you think tall and short, you're not offended by that, right? Then you want to think about Bailey and Destiny. Say hi.
Hello.
Hi. Now go away. Okay. So, now, here we're going to say this is Bailey. We're going to say he's homozygous dominant for a tall gene. Get up off the floor and relax, Bailey. Okay? And here we have a homozygous recessive individual, which we're going to think about Destiny. Homozygous, homo means the same. Now, I know that in our culture we use that term really inappropriately, but homo simply means the same. Hetero means different. If I said that they were heterozygous, then they would have one allele that was dominant and one allele that was recessive together. But we're going to talk about these two being homozygous dominant and homozygous recessive. Here's our dominant. They're big T's. That's what represents dominant. Little t's represent recessive. What we do is we write down big T times little t. That's what we call a genetic cross. We take a big T and put it here, and a big T and put it here. We take a little t and put it here, and a little t and put it here. Then it's kind of like a multiplication table where you bring this down to this box and this over here, and you have big T, little t. Same thing here, down and over, big T, little t. Down and over, big T, little t. Down and over, we have big T, little t. All of the offspring in this genetic cross happen to be heterozygous. And we like to talk about percentages. So the genotype is heterozygous, and we have 100% of heterozygous individuals. But the phenotype, what it looks like, they're still all tall because there's a big T there. Got it? Now, let's say that we had two heterozygous parents, which would mean big T, little t, and big T, little t. You'd put a big T, little t, big T, little t. You bring them down. Here you have an individual that's big T, big T. Here you have an individual that's big T, little t. Here you have an individual that's big T, little t. And here you have an individual that's little t, little t. Now, when we're doing this, for whatever reason, the standard is to always put the capital letter first if it's there. It doesn't matter where it is in the order here, but you always, when you're writing them down, put big T first if it happens to be present. The genotype, what genes are there? You have one that's big T, big T. We have two that's big T, little t. And we have one that's little t, little t. So it's 25% homozygous dominant, 50% heterozygous, and we have 25% chance of homozygous recessive. The phenotype, however, is this one's tall, and this one's tall. So 75% of the offspring possibilities would be tall and only 25% short. You see that? If there's a big T there, it shows up. It's kind of like a bully and takes over. We know Bailey can be... Never mind. Bailey might not be like that.
I am.
Okay, that's a different Bailey. All right, so here's your assignment. You're going to be doing a genetic cross of one homozygous recessive parent and one heterozygous parent. Be sure to tell the genotype percentages and phenotype percentages for each of the offspring in that genetic cross. Use big T for tall, little t for short. Okay? Now, one last thing before you do that is I want you to think back to our pedigree project that we did. And you actually created a pedigree of your family. I want you to remember that the squares were male, circles were female. You were tracing through the family some of the phenotype traits that you could see, like a widow's peak, or free earlobes, or attached earlobes, or whatever it is you chose to trace through your family, because some of those traits are genetic. Things like tongue rolling, things like blonde hair, and all of that. So think back to that project of your personal pedigree project, and then you remember you did a fictitious pedigree project that you could do with any kind of a character. Try to remember all of that stuff that you did, because it may help you on test day.
No.